2nd, 2011. This is Carol Garlow. I'm at the home of Janet Marquardt on Higgins Lake at Elmeda Beach. And we're going to start our tape with asking you to say the tape belongs to the Roscommon Area Historical Society.
Oh, I'm supposed to say it again?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. This tape will belong to the Roscommon Historical Society.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not sure where to start because this home is so full of history, but let's go back to the first people in your family who came here.
My mother, my father, and I,
Okay.
in 1928.
And what were their parents' names?
Mary and Earl Green.
Okay.
And we were recently in Michigan because we had come from Schenectady, New York, and my dad worked at the Edison, and we found Higgins Lake because Mr. Meyer and Mr. Miller were longtime Elmeda Beach residents.
So the Meyer and Miller families were here prior to your parents?
Oh, indeed, yes.
Okay, and that's
Yes.
Meyer, M-E...
M-Y-E-R-S.
Oh, Myers. Okay, thank you.
And there are Meyer daughters down there now.
Right, we talked to them
Yes,
recently.
yes,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
Okay, so
I
they
said
were
to
here-
Jeannie they would be good. The Millers are all gone.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But
So your father worked for
my father
Edison?
worked for the Edison, and we were new in Michigan, and I had sinus trouble, and they said that Higgins Lake air would be good for her.
It's wonderful.
That's why we came,
Sure. Then
and
were you
went
the
to
only-
Mrs. Cheney's.
Okay, and when you say you went there, was that a rental cottage or a hotel, or what was it?
It was a main dining hall, a main living area, cottages, and a boathouse on the lake.
Oh, how many cottages?
I would say half a dozen maybe,
Really?
and that I'm not sure.
Were they
I was
log-
8 or 9.
Were they little log places, or what were
No, just little frame
Uh-huh.
frame
they?
places.
Yeah. Huh. And they all were rented out then, in the summertime?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's, and the communal dining hall. We started with the bell ringing very early. You know, there were no electricity, no bathrooms, no running water,
Uh-huh.
but
Wow. Was there one big outhouse, I have to ask?
you know, I don't remember.
Uh-huh. You were a child. Yeah. Those things
I
were
mean,
important.
we were taken care of, yes.
Sure. Why, sure.
And Mrs. Cheney had Barbara and Ben Apps were teenagers working for her,
Oh, okay. They were brother and sister?
brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
And Barbara Apps became Barbara Aldrich, who was very active in the community.
Very.
And
And a good cook.
yes, yes. And also Mrs. Cheney had a couple from Michigan State University
Oh.
that worked for the university during the school year and then came up.
A married couple, you mean?
A married couple.
remember their
An old, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Shaw.
Shaw.
Uh-huh.
S-H-A-W-L probably.
S-H-E. I think it must have been. I did.
Was Mrs. Cheney there by herself? Did she have a husband?
She was a very old lady then.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So she was probably
I
a
think
widow.
somewhere I may have a picture of her, but she was a very old lady, with lots of white hair, thin.
Oh,
And she was from Highland Park, I believe.
Oh,
That was
okay.
her home.
Oh, okay.
But the main lodge is still standing at Cheney's Point.
It is.
And I have a picture of me taken in front of the big fireplace. And every time we go past there, I say to Jeannie, we're going to go over and look at that fireplace and picture me and see if those rocks are the same
Yes,
thing.
that would be
But
fun. You should do
I'm
that.
sure it is, though.
It's a private residence, I assume, now.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Do you know who's it?
I think it's still maybe in the Cheney family. I
Oh,
don't know
really?
that, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is the boathouse still there?
No, they tore the boathouse down, and all the little cottages are gone, too.
Okay.
That was long gone. Hmm. So that was the 28, 29, or 30. And at the time, there was someone staying at Cheney's whose husband was in the National Guard. So the National Guard was still there, and he would fly over and drop messages, and it was always very exciting, you know,
I guess.
to find get a message in the water. And I also had the opportunity to go up in the plane,
Wow.
and it was necessary that I wear a parachute, which hung to my ankles, open cockpit.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, how fun.
Yes, it was.
Oh, I bet. Well,
As
where
I
did you
remember.
land where did you get on the plane?
Grayling, you
Oh,
know, where the
at the-
National Guard
You
is.
went right up to the camp
Yeah.
to get on the plane.
Yeah.
How fun that
Yeah.
was. When he dropped the message in the bottle, in the...
Oh, I
like,
didn't
what was
drop
it?
them. I
What
mean,
was it in? What did
they
you
were.
drop
It was
in?
a long thing with a streamer.
Oh,
I mean, a
that's-
metal thing
Uh-huh.
with a streamer.
Oh.
And, you know, he'd fly over and drop this message to his wife.
Oh, how
And
fun.
yeah, it was
Do you
interesting.
remember their name?
No, I don't.
No, that's okay.
No, I don't.
That's okay.
But as far as Cheney's, there was Axel Rosequist. And I bet his name comes up somewhere again.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a very old, open tin Lizzie of a car. And I think he was the man that chopped the heads off the chickens for Sunday dinner.
Oh, someone had to do that.
Someone had to do that, and I think he brought the eggs and the... Anyway, it was exciting. We got to ride with him sometime in his funny little car.
Did he have a farm, you think? He had a farm, didn't
I
he?
think so. I
think
think
so, too.
Margaret
Karen
said
property was
that,
that farm.
told me that Axel Rosequist had been there. Yeah,
I think you're right.
I think so.
Yeah, she has mentioned that name.
Yeah.
Well, how interesting. Isn't that something?
And of course, Dewey Carpenter's hotel, you know, was just down the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a great deal to do with the area.
Uh-huh. Did he, was he in competition with Mrs. Cheney as far as the hotel went, or was
Oh,
he
I don't
later?
think so.
Or they were there at the same time, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Okay.
and he had his first store just down north of the hotel where the road goes up. Judy told me it was Division, maybe.
Oh,
And he had a first store at that corner
okay.
for a very short time before he built the first one at the cut.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And the first one at the cut.
Where was where the Timbers is today? Is that where the first store was?
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And in my younger days, we would walk every night across the bridge at the cut
Uh-huh.
and walk and put our nickel in the slot machine. They were legal at the moment.
Sure. Pull that handle.
Pull that handle. Yep.
Wow, how wonderful.
Yeah.
So, you're saying Dewey Carpenter was the first one to have a store there.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I wonder how long he had that.
Well, see, that would be early 30s
Mm-hmm.
when it
When he started it.
first came,
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we were over here, we rented from Mr. Miller for a lot of years. In my high school years,
Okay.
we were over here.
Were you the only child?
I was the only
Oh,
child.
okay.
Yep.
So the Millers, who are still your next door neighbors, is where you used to rent, your family would rent a place from them?
Hmm.
Do they
They-
have several cottages?
Yes, they did, and they belong to Jack Cornell now.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. But there have been several owners in between.
Uh-huh. Oh, nice.
And the original Miller's son is 3 cottages over here,
Oh.
Bill
okay.
Miller III.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
What's the first name?
Bill Miller.
Bill.
Mhm.
Okay. So was this lot vacant that your father decided to build here, or how did
No,
that
see,
happen?
my father didn't build this place.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Loney did. He was the Detroit Edison doctor,
Uh-huh.
and
He built it for himself?
built it for himself,
I see.
and he lived here.
Oh, okay.
We had his grandson come and visit from California last year.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah.
I bet he was delighted to come back
Yes,
to this.
he did. He loved it.
Yeah.
And,
So we still have your family at the Millers.
Yep.
Through the 30s.
yep. And we would rent for the season.
Wonderful.
It was.
And did your health was
Oh,
fine when you were here?
I became very healthy quickly, yes.
Great.
Unfortunately, still am.
Right.
But, what more can I tell you? Oh, yes, as Jeannie was telling you, Sargent's farm up Marquis Road, you know where Sargent's?
Yeah.
Well, their farm was there, and that's where we rented the horses
Oh,
to
okay.
ride down and down the hill. I remember down that big hill, and then the bridge across.
Uh-huh.
The cut was here at that
Now, when
time.
you say we, would you say you and your friends, or was it something you did with your parents?
No, I and a friend.
You and your friend.
I and a friend. Yes.
So that was you were riding horses for
I was
pleasure.
I was high school.
Sure.
Yeah,
Oh, it
high
had to be
school
fun.
age. Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Great.
And Dale Sargent was our milkman
Oh,
that
okay.
came with a truck, you know, through.
They must have had quite a farm there then. They had cows and
Well, I don't know. I don't.
had cows
I
and
don't
horses.
really remember a lot of cows there.
Huh.
They had baby bear cubs one year, I remember.
Really?
Cutest, yes, cutest things. That's all I really remember about Sargent's.
So when you did the horseback riding, would you rent the horses for an afternoon, or is that the kind of thing it was?
I'm not sure how we did it. It was rather informal. I mean, it was not a riding stable.
Okay, you just,
They had horses, and if
They
you
let you
wanted to
ride.
ride them, I guess, I'm sure we paid, but I don't remember anything about that.
Yeah. Do you become quite an excellent swimmer, spending your summers at the lake?
Oh, I wouldn't say excellent. I'm a
But-
good swimmer,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So your mother was able to stay all summer too, and your
My
father-
dad would come up weekends.
Did he come every weekend?
Yep.
What kind of car did he have?
Well, he liked Buicks at the moment, before we became a Ford family with my husband.
Oh,
But yes, and it was gravel until we got to Bay City. I mean, after Bay City, it was gravel. And it was a long, long trip up,
I bet it was.
originally.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
But-
For heaven's sake.
And there were fields, I remember we used to pick lilies, tiger lilies, by the armful, just armfuls of tiger lilies, which should never, I mean, we picked too many evidently, because,
Well, other things come in and crowd them out too. Because you still see quite a few in,
in the field.
in the ditches.
Lilies, do you?
Tiger lilies. They're out right now.
Really?
Trying
I only see black-eyed Susans. I go from the daisy season to the black-eyed Susan to the Queen Anne's lace,
Yeah,
where we're getting now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the tiger lilies are out right now. You need to take another ride.
No, it must not be on my path because
Because you're looking for them, huh?
oh, no,
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of them until just now.
Yeah.
But it used to be just fields, and
I
we'd
bet
go
there
pick
were.
them.
They are beautiful.
And in the old days, we could pick wild strawberries. They were around a lot more. Now all the roads have made that almost impossible.
So, when you first came, do you remember not so much the trees, because all these trees are second growth, right? I mean, there had
I
to be,
can't tell you anything about.
No,
No,
don't
I,
remember that part.
that was nothing that impressed me at a young age.
Right. Yeah,
The size of a tree or
yeah.
what. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember anything else about Mrs. Cheney's, really. I mean, the meals when the bell rang, and of course then there was a little bit of getting together in the main cottage. But then it was just lights out and time to go to bed.
Were there bonfires on the or campfires
no, no.
in the evening?
No, mm-mm, no.
A lot of,
It wasn't a lot of children, actually.
yeah. But tell me what you remember of the lake being like. The different ones have talked about how everything was quiet sports, the canoes.
Oh, we had one rowboat.
Yeah.
One rowboat.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Did you fish?
No, I didn't fish. I have a picture of my dad and I and another man going out in the boat, and my dad with a fedora, you know, I mean, and no, my family
Didn't fish.
didn't fish. I was saying last night we had fish for dinner, and I said, I do wish we were fishermen. We could go out and get this perch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good fresh. My husband's a fisherman, so
Is
I
he?
know.
And if you know areas, you can get very good fish, can't you?
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So tell us, I guess we're ready either to go on with and you went to college, still came up here in the summer from when you were in college?
There was a small, yes, but there was a small during the war. I worked for the 3 years. Then I got married, and there were a couple years, so I had a period of 8 or 9 years, maybe, that I was not here.
Oh, okay. In the 40s, late 30s and 40s.
Yeah, war years, and my
What
first
year did you graduate college?
42.
42.
Oh, 70 years ago next year.
Yeah. Gee, isn't that something?
Yes.
What kind of work did you do?
I worked in the payroll department
For?
for the Detroit Edison. Oh, indeed,
Now
yes.
Here the stories coming together now.
Yes.
Because we have a Detroit Edison man.
Yeah, the Detroit Edison.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
And your father was still working there then also?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of work did he do?
He was an electrical engineer.
Wonderful.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Well, so tell us where you went to college.
I went to Denison University, and I went because my next door neighbor, Lois Cornell, who was Lois Champney then, went the year ahead of me. And
She said, come on, Janet.
yep, she did. Said, come on, Janet.
Great.
Who was another thing I wanted to tell you about the Chickadee Workshop.
Oh.
And that was Mr. Berthet, and he was just a few cottages down from Carpenter's Hotel. And I think Berthets are still there. Now that's somebody, if they are, you might talk to, because Mr. Berthet was an old white-haired man, and he made all kind of little wooden things, little shelves and all kind of, and every once in a while I find a shelf and it says
Berthet. B-U-R-T-H-E-T?
B-E-R-T-H-E-T, just like it sounds.
Yeah.
And it was the Chickadee Workshop.
For gosh sake.
And that was,
A nice summer thing for him, probably. Was he retired at that time?
I don't know anything about him, because that was the
You were young.
late 20s, early 30s,
Really?
and I don't know how long he lived or how long he did it, but it was a very interesting man and interesting place.
Sure. Very interesting. That's neat. Okay, we have you out of college and working, and then when did this Mr. Marquardt come into your life?
He came into my life at college.
Oh, at college, okay.
Yes, indeed. Almost immediately.
Oh,
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
And what was his first name?
David.
David, okay. Okay. And then when were you married?
Well, he got on a ship and was gone 3 years, and then we got married.
Wow.
1945, yes.
45. Where did he serve? In the Pacific?
Overseas. He was landing craft, made the landing craft on D-Day.
Oh, in the European? Oh, wow. And survived wonderfully, huh?
Yes.
Those were difficult years, weren't they?
Yes,
Yeah. the nation.
Now, what else can I tell you about the lake, though?
Well, after you were married, you and David were married, then when did you start to come up? Were your parents still, did they come after the war, come back up here too?
Well, you know, my dad never did buy a place because he said, Janet probably will get married and move far away. And then when I moved to Seattle, he said, and I came back, when I lived in Seattle, I drove home across country every summer. Kids, 3 kids, dogs. And he said, well, I guess she's coming back. So he bought the place.
Oh, okay. What year?
And it was 45 years ago.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was, okay, 45 years ago.
It would be 40, 56, 60.
65.
Yeah,
So,
around 60, 67 maybe.
okay.
Mhm.
And is it Dr. Loney? you said?
Dr. Loney.
Loney?
Hmm.
Were they the only prior owners?
He built it.
He had it built, and then that's who you purchased it from?
He bought the property from Mr. Miller.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
And do you know if the logs came from nearby? Are they off the property or anything?
I don't know anything,
But it sure is beautiful
anything about the
about the construction.
formation, no.
This Dr. Loney then, you and your father bought this then, or your husband?
My
Bought-
father.
Your father bought it. Nice. Nice, it's just beautiful. I wonder who did the stone fireplace.
I don't know, but yeah,
Yeah,
We
it's
do
one-
love it.
We're talking about is it just 1 story or is it 2 story over there?
nope,
1 story.
4 bedrooms.
4
you know,
bedroom, 1 story long.
bedroom, bedroom, bath, bedroom, bath, bedroom. You know.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Kitchen in the back, big windows to the lake.
Hmm.
A cathedral ceiling that's not real high, I would say. I don't know what that pitch is, but very, very, and so there are horizontal logs, and then the inside of the ceiling is all log also. And a beautiful, huge stone fireplace, cut field stone. Wonderful. It's wonderful.
For a year or 2, we had flying squirrels that came in nightly. Almost, you can set your clock around 11 o'clock, and in the corner of that front room, you'd see those little beady eyes looking. They are really the cutest things.
Really?
Yes.
Like when you say they, how many were there?
Well, usually one at a time, but
Uh-huh.
we did see more.
And were you able to,
We didn't do anything about it.
they finally just left?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yes, I enjoyed seeing them, really.
Yeah. What, did they fly around in here then?
No,
or did they
no,
just
no,
stay right
no.
there?
No, they ran around the edge just a little bit and then ran out.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Yep,
Isn't that something?
yep. They were funny.
Yeah.
And about 35 years ago, I guess it's that much, my parents liked to entertain, we liked to entertain, and so did our children. So we built a second house out in back.
Oh, nice.
So, and that is winterized.
Wonderful.
So this we close in the winter,
Uh-huh.
and that we keep open.
Are you able to, have you come up many a winters or no?
We always used to spend every Thanksgiving here,
Oh, nice.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
and often come up at Christmas.
Uh-huh.
And would just chop a hole in the ice, you know, for our water to flush toilets
Sure.
and water.
Great.
Yeah, and we loved it then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So what is the biggest change in the lake that you have observed?
Oh, the sand is not quite as pretty, and the weeds, we never had any weeds here. And of course, the zebra mussels, zebra, is that what they are? Zebra mussels, yeah. There are changes
Yeah.
a bit, but it's still beautiful water.
It sure is.
Yeah.
It sure is, and you're in a beautiful spot. You're in a beautiful spot. So when you brought your children cross country, that's something. Tell me your children's names.
Dave, Jeannie, Jim.
Okay.
65, 64, and 59.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. When you say those words.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And now they still enjoy coming, I'm sure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's nice, so many places along the lake, the families have just kept the traditions going. It's just really a lot of tradition at the lake, just a lot. Just a lot. When you, well, even when you came with your children, were you out picking huckleberries?
Oh,
Is that one of your events?
we have all been blueberry. We don't call them huckleberry. We call them blueberries.
Oh, do you?
But we have been, all of us, blueberry pickers forever. Yep. In fact, a couple of days ago, Jeannie and I were out.
Did you have any luck?
Not like last year,
Yeah.
but yes.
Good.
She always gets twice as many as I.
We're talking about Janet's daughter, Jeannie Meyer, who is in the room and might be speaking, so I will put her name in there in case we hear from Jeannie.
I'm sure Jeannie can add some things that I may have forgotten.
That's all right. That's all right. So now when you come, do you stay all summer also, like you did when you were a child? Nice.
I may go down if I have events of anything, you know. But fortunately, I can drive, and
Wonderful.
So
Get
I'm
to-
free to go and come.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So do you remember was there already electricity here when your father purchased this place?
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
You already had
Oh,
electricity.
yeah.
Great. Trying to think when people
I
have talked
can't
about
really
it
tell
coming.
you when it came.
I don't know either.
No.
In the village, it came earlier because they had their own generator.
Yeah. Oh,
But I don't know
I'm
when it
sure.
came out here. I'm thinking in the 30s. Do you know, Jeannie?
No.
I should know that, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember. Tell us a little bit about some of the canoeing that you did. Would you go around the whole lake or go out to the island, or what was your
We
favorite
did,
thing?
no, not the canoeing. We didn't do that. I mean, that was, you know, in order to get someplace, or it was not any long-range thing. But we did have a wonderful raft out in front. It was on stilts. It was a very tall raft that stood up, and we'd really spend the day there.
Sure. Who built that?
Millers.
Oh, wonderful. The good Millers.
Yeah.
Good neighbors.
Yeah. Yeah, Millers were very influential as far as the beach, you know, and things.
Along with Art Meyer.
Yeah.
Have you spoken about him and changing the road ends?
No, we didn't talk.
You remember how down here it was 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st Street?
The ones that are now Lily and
Charlene and-
yeah,
Mhm.
Arbutus and all that.
It was platted originally that there would be it would continue 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way down Alameda Beach.
Oh.
And due to Art Meyer's influence, all of those proposed road ends, platted road ends, were closed, so that there weren't any after those first 4, which made a huge difference.
Right. Yeah.
And that property was
is-
divided then to the adjacent owners.
Oh, okay.
Do you know
mean
what
the
year?
part for that would have been the road?
Yes, yes.
So how deep? It's a terribly deep lot. How deep is your property here?
Almost a quarter of a mile.
Is it really? Yeah.
But there was, starting at Myers, there was a road behind the cottages, right behind. And nobody had roads to the road, to the main road at that, for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And just the road started at Myers and went it all the way down to who was down? Mrs. Crosby's, which was just beyond Miller's.
Oh, okay.
and that road then ended there.
Oh,
And then
And then went
people
back out.
started building
their own driveway.
their own roads
That's a
to.
lot to maintain that long driveway for everybody, but it's been nice and private.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a good thing.
I remember when we used to have milk delivery here, a milkman
Mm-hmm.
who drove that back road, you know, and pulled up at
Sure.
each place
Sure,
when I was young.
sure.
We had a bakery too.
A bakery truck came as well. I remember that.
Oh, who was that?
I don't know. I don't know that. And the only reason I know that is because Ralph Champney dropped jelly out of a jelly donut into Mrs. Miller's hair.
Oh, my God. That's a vivid memory.
How, I don't know.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
We loved the bakery in town too, the Cornelia's Bakery in
Yes.
town.
Oh,
What was the applesauce?
applesauce cake.
Yes.
Oh, with
Mm,
butterscotch frosting, wasn't it?
something like that.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
That was for special occasions.
Where was that located?
In town, opposite where the dry goods store. No,
Opposite McConkey's?
Opposite the Tilton Hilton, wasn't it?
no, it was the same side as the Tilton
Oh,
Hilton.
really? Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it was
it was.
in that block.
Same size.
Other end of that block.
Opposite the dry goods. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Hmm. And DeWale's drugstore, of course, was right by the tracks. Hmm.
What do
No.
you remember about Mr. DeWale?
Not much, really,
much.
except that we got cheap ice cream cones.
That was good. That was good.
And then, of course, the golf course.
Oh, were your parents golfers, or tell me about the golf course?
No, but that's where I learned.
You golf.
Uh-huh. And spent
Who
a
was,
little.
who was running it at that time?
I don't know, but the Layman's got it later.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And I've forgotten who had it originally. But-
Mom had a hole-in-one at age 65, by the way,
Oh,
just to
right.
give you an idea. He's a
That's
good
wonderful.
athlete.
It took me that many years, yep.
That's all right, that's a wonderful
But
accomplishment.
Loya Champney Cornell and I spent a lot of time there.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Huh, that's neat. Did you know Edna Osling? Did you golf with Edna?
No, but I had dates with Art Osling,
Oh, did you? Yeah.
and that poor fellow drowned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never
He was
found
a
his-
handsome,
Never found his body.
no.
Now, his sister Edna is the only one living. All the boys have died. And I see her, she lives in Tawas, and I see
Oh.
her when I go over there to work at the White House.
Uh-huh.
And she's a delightful gal. She's sharp, just like you. Just and she's, I think, close in age, because she's 95 this summer.
Uh-huh.
And how old are you?
91.
91. Okay.
Then there's Art,
I guess I didn't get your birth date in here. What is your birth date?
April 24th, 1920.
1920. That's easy to remember.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's great. What do you remember about Art?
Not a whole lot, really.
Not a whole lot.
No, just that he worked in the bank and as a either late high school or early college, you know. He was a little older, and we thought he was really quite the thing.
Quite the guy.
And then there was Al Shervin, who became the postmaster, and I used to see him some too.
He's doing well, pretty well.
I saw his picture in the paper, and I was interested to see he was either 3 or 4 years older than I.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten.
Yeah, he's doing quite
Yeah.
well. As his brother Andy is hanging in there also.
Now he was a drugstore man. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they were born and raised here.
Yeah. Oh, there were a lot of Shermans.
Yeah.
There was a John that did something.
Yeah.
And then there was, who was the lady with, they had the butcher shop in town? Oh, Jeannie, you know. The lady that was important in town.
Oh, she was the one who owned all the land.
Yeah.
Esther
Esther
McCready.
McCready.
Yes,
Her
yes,
brother
yes.
had the butcher shop.
Yes,
Yeah.
uh-huh.
She never was part of that. She was a teacher in Chicago. She taught high school chemistry,
I thought they all
Oh,
sort of worked there.
among other things.
Uh-huh.
Well, she may have very slightly, but I don't think much,
Uh-huh.
if at all.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, that was. Let's get back to the blueberries. When you first came up here, did you pick blueberries that early too, when you were just younger?
No.
No, this
No.
was a later thing. Okay.
later.
Okay. Great.
I think that started more with my children, probably.
Although your father.
Although, yeah. Although my dad loved to pick too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's addictive almost. You can't leave the patches because there's more there. Hard to leave the patches. Do you remember, so when you first came here, the state park was starting. Do you remember anything about the South State Park?
No, I
Maybe
really
it's
don't.
over there.
Mm-mm.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about going to the rustic dance hall in
Mhm.
Prudenville. Let's
10
hear about
cents a
that.
dance. Hmm. And as I said, the boys from University of Michigan had a band and would come up and be the orchestra.
Great.
Hmm.
So it was pretty nice ballroom dancing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you went with your friend Lori?
Uh-huh. My parents took me.
Oh, your parents took you?
Oh, indeed, yes. That was the first time I ever danced with a fellow, and it was Dale
Sergeant?
Sargent.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Okay,
old man Dale Sargent.
Uh-huh.
Yep,
great.
yep.
And was there an admission charge or? how
No,
did
just
that
10
go?
cents a dance.
Oh, you paid per dance?
Hmm.
Oh,
And they'd come and ask you if they'd pay their 10 cents, and then you'd go dance.
the fellow paid the 10 cents to dance with you.
Yep. Uh-huh.
My things have changed.
Yeah.
Wasn't that fun though?
Yeah.
Was that like every Saturday night or how often was that?
No, I don't think we went regularly.
No, but it
No.
was.
It was,
it was open.
special events, yes.
It was open
And,
every
and
Saturday.
I don't know if it was, I presume it was weekends, but I don't know.
Did
Might
your
have-
family always go in town and pick up a newspaper, or how did that go?
I don't know. I don't remember anything about that at all.
Uh-huh. Did your family attend church when you were
Not
up here
here,
for the summer?
no. Mm-mm.
No. So you didn't meet people that way.
No.
But you had quite a social,
Mhm.
what would I call it?
Network.
Community network out here in
Mhm.
Alameda Beach.
Mhm.
Yeah. Nice. It's nice, isn't it?
People that we've grown up knowing, yes. Uh-huh.
And now their children and grandchildren come.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
everyone knows everybody.
And it is.
Did you ever keep a guest book?
Oh, my, yes.
Did you? Nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Mhm.
Filled one, start another, huh? Great, great. Well, tell me about this picture of in front of the stone there.
Well, that's the one in front of Mrs. Cheney's.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that does say July 1928.
So you were 8 years old.
Uh-huh.
Cute, cute.
And that's the one that I
And that
say we're
building is
going
still
to that
there.
house over there, and we're going to hold that up, and we're going to look at those stones.
And they should be exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that'll be fun when you do that.
Yeah.
That's your mother, I assume.
Uh-huh. And my mother always wore a hat.
Even,
Of
even
course.
in the
I'm
hot-
surprised she didn't have her gloves on, too.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. How often did you go into Roscommon?
We didn't have a car.
You didn't have a car here, so only when your father came on the weekend
Yes.
there was a car.
Hmm.
So,
And I don't think we did much traveling anyway.
mhm,
We might go to the Pines, or I guess the Pines were there.
okay.
I don't remember.
Or to Grayling. You'd go up to Grayling. I remember doing that even.
Well, but that was with you. That wasn't with just me.
Mhm.
Yes, we used to, when on days, we'd go to the fish hatchery
Oh, sure.
and go, at one time you were allowed to go to the military.
Into the camp
Hmm.
for a tour, some open house.
So,
And the logging camp at Hardwick Pines too,
yeah.
Yeah.
before it was made into a museum.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the nursery at what is now the North State Park?
No,
That was a state nursery
no,
for reforestation of Michigan.
no.
Okay. Well, let me think of some other of your favorite memories out here. I do want you to tell me a little bit about these rugs, though. They're just beautiful. These are wool, hand-braided rugs.
Hmm. But that is, the big one is a commercial.
The big one is commercial.
Mhm.
Well, these other ones are
Hmm.
not small.
We did have a big pot-bellied oil furnace here
Oh,
before our big,
this is probably natural gas now.
and that, well, my husband put that in, so it probably has been here 15 or 18 years, I guess.
But did your husband pass? When? When did he pass away?
14 years ago.
14 years ago.
Mhm. But it was smelly, you know. It was oil, the
Sure.
oil thing out there. But it was a good hot. And we do have a funny memory. We had a community garden at the foot of Pioneer Hill.
Oh,
And when did that start, Jeannie?
Mid-70s, mid-1970s.
And Jeannie and my dad and I had a garden down there. And what did I start to tell you about that? I don't know.
Garden Club.
Oh, the garden club, yes. And the people that ran it was Les Stanley and Cleola. Now, maybe they've come into your thing, because I think she started the garden club.
oh,
Anyway, so because we were down there, she got us into the garden club as it was starting. And we had the ladies here one day, and Cleola was sitting next to our hot stove here and fell asleep. It was so
It was
warm
so
and
warm.
warm.
During the meeting.
But that, I keep seeing garden club activities, you know, and I think it's come a very long way. I think we were in the very starting part of the garden club,
sure.
but we're never active because, you know, we didn't really have a garden other than the vegetable.
Well, that was pretty good soil down there, wasn't it?
It was dandy as long as we had water. And they hooked up the system to have water. And then it was, and there were quite a few owners, 8, maybe 10, that each had his plot, you know. And as long as there was water, it was fine. But without that, the little animals came up from the ground, and the deer from the top ate, and then it
It's
just was no longer worthwhile.
yeah. So that kind of just eventually died out. didn't it?
Uh-huh.
When Les Stanley retired. He was, I think he'd been in education, and they moved up here. And he started the community garden. And at some point, he didn't want to, he no longer wanted to be in charge of the community garden, and he asked me if I would be. So I'm trying to think, about in the mid-80s, I took it over, and what really it entailed was constantly fixing the little primitive irrigation system
Oh,
for all the leaks, and
sure.
eventually we decided that we would just build our own garden in our backyard. And I said, among all the other gardeners still left, I said, well, if somebody would like to take it over, I'm passing it on, and nobody did.
Oh,
And
okay.
right about then, that was sort of the beginning of the end. But I go by every now and then, and I can still see the asparagus that I planted.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah.
You have to go and pick it once in a while.
Yeah.
The only thing about it is, the only time you see it is when it's gone to fern.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
And
exactly
other than
right.
that, you don't know it's there.
Yeah, that's
So-
true. You can't find it. So
Yeah.
you have a garden plot here now a little bit?
Yes, I'm Dick Foltz, who lives just around Cheney's Point and runs the cross-country ski shop in Grayling. And
That's Bill's son?
yes, we're lifelong friends. And he has a little plot of property on the other side of Cheney Point Road.
Oh, okay.
Behind
And
his
he
house.
built 3 raised bed 12 by 12 gardens, and we've set up a composter, and we've got rain barrels set up, so we water just with
Wonderful.
rain, and it's lovely. 12
Good.
by 12 is about all that's needed for summer gardening.
Sure, sure.
So I've done it that way
Do
for a
you
number
have
of
fence up for the deer?
years. Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So they're 12 by 12 with a little fence, and they're close enough to each other that the deer can kind of walk in between, but it's very hard for them to jump in. They don't have any,
Not
they
enough
don't have a
space.
jumping in place that
Yeah.
would be easy.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Good for you.
And
Great
it
fun.
has been prolific.
Wonderful.
We have had bags of beans and peas and,
Isn't that wonderful
Oh.
to eat that fresh?
yes.
Yep, and it's all organic,
Wonderful.
have
My
always
husband
been organic.
gardens and so,
And the tomatoes are just coming.
yeah, ours are too. Or his are, I should say his, because I don't do anything.
Oh.
But eat it.
Oh.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna look at these pictures again, see if there's a question. Where does the word Almeida come from? Does anybody know?
I don't.
Oh, I think Byron Loney said something about that. We could probably find out, but I think it has something to do, it was named by somebody that had some connection with California.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and I think that's one of the things Byron was saying last year when he was here. I don't know for sure, but that was the first I'd ever heard about the name.
Yeah, I always wonder, because there's no one here by that name.
No,
Mm-mm.
it was, I think, a connection with Alameda, except it was Alameda, California.
Okay.
But we could find out probably, but I
And the-
remember him talking about it.
And the Carpenter's Hotel says Highland Park. Because were the Carpenters from Highland Park, Michigan, or
Dewey grew
What's-
up here.
Dewey grew up here?
Yeah.
So just in front of their area, they called that part Highland Park?
You
and
know
they called
where-
this Alameda?
You know where Carpenter Hotel is?
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny that it's still that flat thing.
Yeah. Well, and it used to be 2-story,
Yeah.
now it's 1,
Yeah,
if I have the right place.
yeah.
Okay. And, go back to
There used to be a little riding stable over there too.
by Carpenters?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
And this, where it says
By
outlet park,
Carpenter.
that just means by the cut, where the cut comes in?
Correct.
But is there a park there, or is that privately owned?
On the other side of the cut, when I was a little girl, it was privately owned, but there was absolutely no development. It was owned by a woman who had no heirs, and when she passed away, as some people have said, the elite of Roscommon put their money together and bought it, and they then developed Surfside Shores.
For 250,000.
They bought that huge chunk.
For $250,000.
Yeah, I've got all my newspaper clippings.
Wow. Then on this side of the cut is whose property?
Well, on this side, the same woman owned,
Both sides?
yes, up to the land that is currently owned by Earl Townsend. Earl Townsend was a lawyer. He was kind of on top of things too. He had the Townsend building in there, and I don't know that he had much of a practice, but he was aware. And as soon as he found this, he bought the land all the way to the cut.
So he owns that, his family owns that corner now, or the north shore of the Cut River.
Yes,
And the
right.
south shore is Surfside subdivision.
Yes.
And he only came to Higgins because his brother married Mary Later, whose parents were here.
Later,
Dr. Later.
Later?
Mm-hmm.
Not heard that name before.
Yeah, they were,
He was a dentist from Royal Oak.
Dr. Later was.
Dr. Later.
And his daughter married
Mary
Earl
Later
Townsend.
married Earl
John Townsend,
John Townsend, and Earl Townsend
is the son.
was brother.
brother.
Old brother.
And they
They
were,
were lawyers, brothers and lawyers in the same practice in Indianapolis.
Yeah, okay. So, John and Earl, the brothers, both of their families are still here then? Their children?
Earl died just
Because Earl's-
recently,
Yeah,
and his daughter is there, and son.
yeah.
And
And is John still alive then?
No.
He's gone too,
he's gone too.
so, okay.
But his wife is alive,
Oh,
Mary.
Okay.
But she has I don't know. I haven't seen her here this year.
Huh.
Maybe not last year either.
She's not a bit well.
Uh-huh.
No.
Well, it's a trip from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Well, this is a lovely, quiet part of the lake. Or do you feel with the South State Park not too far, do you hear noise from that at all? I wouldn't think so, in the trees.
They all seem to go somewhere else, really.
The boats from the state park tend to go up the west shore of the lake. They kind of pull out and follow. It's like, rather than going around, they kind of migrate toward Sunken
That
Island.
Sunken Island, yeah.
And also the kind of shallow off Flag Point. And to get there, they go up the other side, so we don't really have much
Nice.
connection to
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Great.
And the other thing about Alameda Beach, it's almost a quarter-mile walk till you get up to here.
To the drop off.
So we don't have boats in shallow either,
Oh, okay.
zooming around.
Have you had swimmers issues here?
Oh, yes.
Isn't that discouraging?
Yes.
There doesn't seem to be a cure for that at the moment.
They can make these machines and do all that and can't get rid of a little bug.
Yeah. When you think it was crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Well, Jeannie, can you think of anything else that we haven't quite covered?
Well, I was
You were
I
out
was
for a bit.
outside for a little bit,
Yeah.
but
What are your favorite memories of coming up here from your childhood?
well, one thing I bet Mom didn't mention is we used to once a week go to Lakeview riding stables
Did you?
to
Forgot.
ride. Yes.
Forgot.
And yes, and really, yeah, we had our favorite horses, and my brother Dave liked to ride, and some of the Townsend kids like to, and once a week we'd all jump in the station wagon and go for our, you know, our horseback ride. And that was one of the things we did for fun. And another one that Mom probably didn't mention is we would pile in the station wagon, and one of our fun things at night was deer hunting.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And so my dad actually had a spotlight, you know, put on the car so that as we were going down 2 tracks, she could kind of, you know, look to see, you know, we didn't hunt, we just
Right.
wanted to see them.
Sure.
And just picture a station wagon with 3 sections all full of kids. And I remember one time that I thought, to me now is just hilarious, that my mom would be this bold. We ended up on a 2-track and were completely lost. And she is the only adult in a car full of kids. We're completely lost. And by 2-track, we came out at Lake St. Helen.
Oh, my.
And I, to this day, have absolutely no idea how we got there. And is my mom the least bit worried or stressed? Well, if she is, we have no idea. She looks and she said, "Oh my gosh, there's an ice cream place." And all I remember is, you know, well, no worries. Let's get some ice cream cones and go home. So those were our amusements. And, you know, we didn't have a phone, and we didn't have a television, and we, until finally we got a little black and white so that my grandfather could watch Tiger baseball. So there was no media, and all of our fun was outdoors, all of it.
Sure.
And I really liked it that way. I
Wonderful.
have tried to, you know, get the next generation to see it that way, but that's no easy thing. Even, you know, it's
I'm
not
sure.
in,
How many
there's too much
children?
media.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
2.
My daughter just walked through.
Yeah, I saw her.
And
What's her
she's-
name?
Her name's Lissa,
Lissa.
and she is 25, and my son Andy is 28. She lives in San Diego. He lives in Taiwan at this point. And both of them were born up here. You know, I've lived here for
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah.
The Roscommon kids, huh? Higgins Lake kids.
Andy started
Great.
school here.
Did he?
Yes, kindergarten and 1st grade.
Wow.
So
Nice.
Mhm.
Very nice.
it was very nice.
Keep the traditions going.
Mhm.
When
What's
Jeannie
the-
mentioned the horses, I had forgotten. Mrs. Spatz had a stable right up from where Carpenter Hotel, whatever that road is, right up.
Sir.
And before you got to the main road, there was a stable.
Really?
When I was in my
Mrs. Who?
Spatz, S-P-A-T-Z.
Oh.
And then she later moved over to the bigger one over
So
farther
she's the same lady that had Lakeview Stables.
later.
Oh, wow. Huh, didn't know that name.
Yeah, I'd forgotten because I loved to go down and help clean the stable. I loved that smell as a child.
And you're a real horse girl then, because
Yes, yes.
you too, Jeannie?
Yeah, back in the day. That was one of my dreams, is to have a horse. Not quite fulfilled, that one, but
Never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Oh, my
dreams
God.
change
Yes,
sometimes.
that's right. That's right. That's neat.
So did Mom talk about the history of this place? And
Well, just that Dr. Loney, L-O-N-E-Y, had it built.
in pieces. You know, the first was just the 4 sleeping rooms, and then this was added on to it. So this was a main doorway to the outside before.
Okay.
And then there was a cook shack in the back, And then they decided, well, you know, we're gonna live here year round, we better, you know, just add on, and the kitchen that was supposed to be just temporary till they really did something. And so they added just this kitchen right here. And then they got thinking, no, this isn't quite year-round enough. So they built what doesn't, you can't see it anymore, but right next door they built.
Well,
It
that
now
was-
belongs to Bob and Lynn Fry.
Oh, that's a big place.
Yes.
So
It's
the
been
same-
added on to twice.
Same people that.
It was
that had this
Dr.
built.
Loney's son that got married and lived here and had his children here and then built.
Yeah, for a year-round, more of a year-roundish
Oh,
house.
okay.
And we discovered that, that if you looked at some of the original part of that cottage, and it was just a little white cottage, same floorboards. These
Okay.
floors, I think, were from kind of, from a place in Grayling, and they were sort of leftover boards, and the same ones used to make both places, so.
We're talking about very small,
Uh-huh.
I
Thin
believe-
and sort of short.
I believe maple.
Mhm.
Yeah, they are.
Mhm.
But very narrow. Is that an inch and a half or? Yeah, I bet it is.
Mhm.
Tight, beautiful, beautiful floors.
About due for a rebuffing, but if you saw all the traffic that came through here,
Yeah.
dogs, people,
Cat.
a typical
Yes,
night
you see our.
in this house is, you know, a typical dinner has from 5 to 11 people around the table every night.
Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful.
So,
Well, it's just so beautiful and so peaceful.
And our turtle comes for the summer. Romeo comes for his summer vacation.
Oh my.
Mhm.
Where's the turtle?
Oh, you haven't met him at the
No.
end of the
Oh,
room?
I see him, yeah. He comes up every year, huh?
Yep. Other than that, he lives at Jeannie's house because he
you-
belonged to her son.
Do you let him out on the beach now and then?
mhm,
Mm-hmm. I bet he loves it.
he does.
Romeo.
He's 28.
No kidding.
I've had him 20 years, 21 years.
How much has he grown?
Not a lot.
Not a lot.
Yeah, turtles are small,
Mhm.
you know, slow in every way.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. He's an adult-sized Asian box turtle.
Asian box turtle. How
Mhm.
cute is that? Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Well, Janet, you've had a nice time on Higgins Lake.
Oh, I've loved every minute.
Good.
Yep.
That's great. That's just great. Do you still do boating? Do you go
Not
on the
much.
boat? No.
I have a water bicycle.
A water
And it is
bicycle.
a bicycle. It's not one you sit side by side.
Uh-huh.
It is you'll see it out in front.
Yeah,
It's a water
wonderful.
bicycle.
And
which
is that
is-
something you have to go, I should think, just when it's calm like today?
No,
You can go on
however,
the
I can
wave?
go at any time, but it would be
Okay.
great work. If it were rough, it would be great work
Uh-huh.
because it doesn't turn easily even in calm.
Oh.
I mean, it's
How long have you had that?
well, we bought it, how many years ago, Jeannie?
Well, about the same time we got the cottage. Or, yeah, well, a couple years after we got the cottage. But it first appeared on the beach when I was about 8. So that puts it in the 50s.
When our neighbors moved and left the area, were selling all their things, and I coveted that bicycle.
No?
And I got that bicycle.
Is it something that somebody just made?
No,
It was a,
it has a
Manufactured.
manufacturer's
uh-huh.
seal on it, you know.
Was that popular? back
No,
at that
I've
time?
never seen another one,
No.
Well, for heaven's sake.
no. But it is great, and you can just pedal along and look and see, you know, what.
Sure.
Uh-huh. It's
I
great.
hope you stay in the shallow water with it.
No.
You go out.
Why?
I don't know. It
It's
sounds
not
like
tippy.
it's not tippy.
No, not a bit
When
tippy.
you say bicycle, I think tippy.
No, no,
Well,
no.
I'm gonna go see that.
You'll have to look at it. You really will. Yeah.
Sounds
What she does
wonderful.
now, there's a deep water raft out here,
Mm-hmm.
and I swim out to it and back at night. And she accompanies me so I don't get run over by boats.
Yeah.
Good plan.
Uh-huh.
Good plan in today's world.
Yep.
Or jet skis or something coming through.
Yep.
Wow. Well, that's excellent. Excellent. Well, is there anything else that you want to share with us, do you think? We've covered
I can't think of another thing.
now your father didn't fish. Did your husband fish? No.
We have no,
No,
Not
fishermen.
very well. We're sailors. We're sailors, not fisher.
Oh, okay.
Women.
Well, let's hear about the sailing.
Well, my grandfather built a sailfish out of a kit, a wooden sailfish out of a kit. When they first came on, when they first were being made, when they first were designed, and it was a gift, really, to his grandchildren. And he did it one winter in his garage, and he really wasn't much of a woodworking kind of guy, but he did a very nice job, built a very fine boat. And we all learned how to sail on that. And then we had a Hobie Cat, so we kind of went up to a little bit speedier. And my father actually purchased one of the very earliest of those, a Hobie Cat 16.
Yep, sail number 920.
950.
Oh, close.
Yep.
Right.
And then
I'm always close.
and when we were kids, when we were very, very young, the McKinley family had an e-scow that they used to park out pretty, in neck-deep water. And I watched it. They used to do sailing races. They were part of the boat club. And I think I got to sail on it once. But it was called the Orion. And an e-scow is a 28-foot boat that's sort of like a giant surfboard, although it's got a little cockpit, not a cabin, but a cockpit, but a whole lot of sail and a little snub nose. And it's a very fast sailboat. They always used to win. Of course, they had a lot of handicapping, but, and my brothers, well, we always just loved the look of this boat. And the Bruckman family found an old e-scow, an old wooden one, and they fixed it up. And when they felt like they didn't want to sail it anymore, my brothers bought it. And we've been sailing e-scows ever since. It's
Wonderful.
a fabulous boat, fast, fun. It's a great quiet sport as opposed to motors. And
Sure.
So we're sailors, not fisher people.
And your children are doing that now?
Yes.
They're all sailing?
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
And 2 Hobie Cats.
You still have 2 Hobie Cats?
Yes, unfortunately, in some ways.
And a sailfish.
Yeah.
So what happened to the first wooden one that your grandfather made? Is that still,
Bit the dust.
that bit the dust?
But here's what we've done that's, I think is quite fun. And
Mhm.
it really is my brother Jim's work and project. We have a little boathouse here, and we have a workbench and tools, but up above is what we call the wall of shame. And it's all the bent propellers and broken things.
Oh, my.
Our first telephone is hooked up there. And when finally the sailfish was, it was just rotting, it was old, it was leaking, we realized we couldn't save it anymore. We kept it for a long, long time and kept repairing it, but finally we couldn't. He cut off the nose of it, and so the nose of the sailfish is hanging there on the wall of shame.
Nice.
Yep.
Wonderful family little tradition there.
Yep.
That's great. Well, you've all had a good time, it sounds like.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We have old water skis, you know, and broken dagger boards from sailboats.
That's another thing. It used to be surfboards before water skis.
Before tubes.
I even remember that.
Yep.
Mom was great at surfboarding.
Were you?
Yes.
Great.
I was.
So we had motorboats early on to pull the surfboards.
I think Bob Loney had one of the first motorboats in this area. And when he was
Now, Bob Loney was Dr. Loney's son.
son,
Okay. What was Dr. Loney's first name?
Byron.
Byron. Okay. Try to hopefully get the correct names.
Well, and here's the fun thing. So one summer, I was probably 24 or 25. We were all sitting at the dinner table when this 19-year-old kid walks up to the back door and says, "Hi, I'm Byron Loney, the grandson of the man who built your cottage." And my grandfather was so gracious, always. He said, "Come on in." And Mary, that's his wife, Mom's mother, put another plate at the table, and he stayed for several days. So, now fast forward to last summer, Byron and his partner, his female partner, came and spent a week with us.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And he was so interested in all the history of the beach and of course had quite a bit of history from his own family that we went up and down and introduced to everybody and just had a wonderful time.
A nice community connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
And
makes it all special too.
Yep.
Sure.
yeah. And they'll come back again next year.
Uh-huh.
They're from California.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. Very, very nice. Well, Anne
Oh, so yeah, there
Anne
is.
has been very quiet through this entire process.
I'm always interested because my mother used to come to Higgins Lake. And this was so long ago, I know little about it. But
What was your mother's name?
I have a lot of things of hers that had to do with Higgins Lake.
Wonderful.
And she was so surprised to find something that said Higgins Lake on, because Hoppy hadn't known. Yep.
What was your mother's name?
And
Anne. What's her last name? What was her last name?
And
Hopkins.
Hopkins.
Hopkins, I've got to stop.
Anne Hopkins. Well, I assume it's different than yours, but you shouldn't assume
And
that.
then she's Ann Hopkins Buchanan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, and Mom and Hoppy, of course, went to college together, and Mom's nickname was Greener, and
the Hoppy.
Ann's was Hoppy, and to all of us here and everybody on the beach, everybody knows her
Hoppy's
only
coming.
as
As
Hoppy.
Hoppy.
Hoppy's coming. Hoppy. And it's been, she comes every year and has for 20 years. I would
However-
say, close to
however.
it.
It's been wonderful.
I don't know.
Why, sure.
Yep.
That's,
But I'm always tickled because I always come across somebody here who knew my mother.
sure.
But that's the extent of it, really, I think.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've covered everything. Do you think we've covered everything,
I
Jenna?
certainly do.
Okay, well, I appreciate very much your
Oh.
time and your sharing your family history
Yeah.
and the history of Alameda Beach. And we appreciate it.
If it helps anybody to fill in a gap,
Sure.
I'm pleased.
Yes, it's always very interesting. Thank you very much.